very good afternoon to you, our cherished listeners. It's always super exciting to come your way every Wednesday with your favorite business development program on Radio Masterclass. Masterclass is powered by Joy Business and brought to us by Goyle. Goyle, they say good energy, Goyle, Yenara, Yedia. Clearly, we've entered into yet another month, second day of September 2020. And indeed, we are in the ninth month of the year, we bring you yet another exciting edition of Masterclass. It certainly feels good to join you again today. And like I was saying just before the show when I was talking to Sammy Forson, we've spent some time talking about taxation, the benefits. In fact, last week's show was a very good one for me, where we learned about some reliefs that we can get in our taxation process. We didn't quite exhaust that conversation. We will definitely bring back Mr. Kofi Frimpongori to share those thoughts with us. We thank him so much for spending all those weeks with us, giving us some enlightenment on our tax obligations as responsible citizens of the country. And we will bring him back to share some more thoughts with us on some more reliefs. We found out some very interesting reliefs. For example, I didn't know that if you were married in Ghana, there were tax reliefs that you could access. If you had children in Ghana, there were tax reliefs you could access. There were educational. If you had children and they were in school, there were tax reliefs. All of these were shared with us here on the show. But it's time to change the conversation just a little bit, because you see, COVID has come to stay. It's not going anywhere. Our lives have changed. We're talking about the new normal. But we need to make some money for Christmas. We need to make some money because school fees, already there's a conversation going on about paying school fees for our children. Some of them are going back to school. The president has spoken. Some of them are going next year. But school fees, either you're paying now, you're going to pay next year. You have to start preparing for it. So we need to start being able to sell some of our products. And remember, this show is about entrepreneurship. So what is it that you sell? Is it a service? What is it that you sell? Is it a product? Whatever it is that you sell, we want to have a conversation today and begin to realign ourselves to coming back to that place where we can make some money, if you like. And we're joined in the studio today by another wonderful resource person. He'll be telling us a bit more about himself in the next couple of weeks, but he's in the person of Mr. Mauli Oklu. And a very good afternoon to you, Pelgia. If you're listening, special shout out to you. Mauli is here on the show. Mauli is a sales consultant. He's been there and done that, and he knows everything about sales. He's one of those people you can easily say can sell snow to an Eskimo, or to sell a mirror to a blind man, if you like. But people often confuse the topic of sales with marketing, with branding, with advertising. Very simply put, how do you sell whatever it is that you want to sell? Mauli, you're welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
You're welcome. I'm looking forward to this conversation because I know that we're going to learn. We're going to go back to Sales 101, if you like. It's one of those topics that everybody thinks they know and understand.
Yeah.
But when it comes to results and output, you find that the boys are separated from the men very easily. Let me share some thoughts with you. Zig Ziglar, very influential person. He had some few things to say about sales. And there was one that really caught my attention, Zig Ziglar and Mariage. And this was Zig Ziglar says, I have always maintained that everyone is in sales.
Yeah.
If the business you are in involves dealing with people, then you, my friend, are in sales. That's what Zig Ziglar had to say. Now, here's what Mary Ash had to say. And this is quite profound because there's a video I watched, which I will talk about later on the show, about selling and how, if you understand it properly, you can change your mindset and do it better.
Yes.
So Mary Ash says, pretend that every single person you meet on the street has a sign around their neck which says, make me feel important. If you understand this, not only will you succeed in sales, you will succeed in life.
Yeah.
That's Mary Ash.
Yeah.
I'll tell you the story, and then you can take us away in our conversation because I'm sure you have all the expert advice and all of that. So there's a short video I watched. All credits to whoever put the video together and whoever the resource person was in that video. And he was trying to sell, let's say, not a piece of hair, but a hairstyle to someone who was going to do their hair because they were going to an event. And they said, I'm going to charge you $5,000 for this hair.
Exactly.
He says, I don't have $5,000. I can only pay $2,000.
Yeah.
He says, okay, but the hair that you're asking for is worth $5,000. He says, but I can't pay $5,000. I can only pay $2,000.
Yeah.
He says, okay, that's all right. I mean, I like your structure. You have this kind of face. You have that kind of face. What event are you going to? He says, I'm going to a wedding. He says, is it your wedding? He says, no, it's not my wedding. He says, is your ex going to be there? He says, yes, he's going to be there. He says, do you want him to see that you're looking good? He says, obviously. He says, then it's going to be 5,000. And then she paid.
Yeah.
Now, he sort of flipped the whole conversation to a point which the person needed to feel important about.
Okay.
And so they made the sale.
Right.
This is just one example of many things.
All right.
But you understand sales.
Yes.
Take us back to the classroom. Let's have a conversation. We'll get interactive at some point. Talk to us, Mauli.
Okay, that's great. And once again, thanks for having me. In the first place, I would like to. You indicated that
Yes.
we can sell snow to an Eskimo.
Indeed.
Yeah. Right. I think those are some of the notions that actually is hurting
Right.
sales as a profession. So, what does that really mean? Wanting to sell a snow to an Eskimo means that you are in the realm of being a con man.
You are selling things to me that I don't need.
I don't actually need, and that's not what sales is
Right.
about.
Right.
And once again, you talked about the fact that we need to talk about sales 101. That's fantastic. People need to make money. Today, I chose the topic for the month. I chose the broad topic, and we'll break it down. Building a winning sales organization, and define, shape, enlighten, excite, and control. Now, let me give you context with respect to why this topic. Yes, we've been doing a lot of sales activities, and this is also targeted at business owners, right? CEOs, sales leaders who are frustrated, really frustrated. They are not getting results. They are not meeting targets. Salespeople are not happy. On one occasion, I was at the sidelines with some sales guy having lunch, and I asked, would you ever do sales again? And unanimously, they said no.
Wow.
Right. So it tells you something is broken. So the quick fixes are not enough. So I chose this topic, is that a sales succeeds if it is well organized. Right? It's a machine. I mean, it needs to be well organized and systemized. And that's why I want to talk about this. And we'll look at it. Let me just give our listeners the agenda for the next 1 month.
Please go ahead.
So that they can expect something. So today, for instance, which is the first session, we're going to be looking at the overview of what a sales management system is, and I'll talk about sales strategies that they need to use, which is called the definers. Next week, we'll talk about sales recruitment, training, and coaching. These are the areas and aspect of sales that shapes the behavior, skills, and values of salespeople to deliver. The third week, we'll talk about sales enablement, all the things that enlightens sales activity in an organization. So we'll look at customer insights, we'll look at technology and tools that can make sales organizations efficient and effective. The fourth session, we'll look at leadership and sales compensation, right? Those are key drivers that can make your sales team excited or bored or demotivated. And once that happens, nobody generates revenue for you. And then the final session, we'll look at the KPIs that we ought to be measuring as business owners. So that's basically what I intend to do. And I hope that at the end of the session, listeners will take away some nuggets that they can take back to the organizations and then diagnose and then implement some of the ideas. You may not be able to implement all of them, but certainly you'll be able to touch on the low-hanging fruits and deal with them. So before I dive deep into today's session, I just want to share a research that was done by a company known as CSO Insights. They specialize in doing sales research, and they did a survey of 1,500 companies to find out what makes a sales team successful. So they came up with 6 points what they call the anatomy of world-class sales organization. And let me highlight the 6 points. First is the ability to develop and retain the right sales team. And the emphasis is on the right sales team. And when we talk about the sales team, I'm talking about salespeople and the sales managers. So there must definitely be a fit for the two. Second issue they talked about is how to optimize your sales process and make sure that it aligns with the buyer's process. And it sounds like a very simple thing, but they do recognize, and research after research has shown that companies that do that make more sales and are profitable. The third point they made had to do with technology and enabling technology in the current environment to make salespeople efficient and effective. Fourth one is ensuring that your sales organization is well informed. In other words, providing the accurate knowledge, and that has got to do with sales enablement. 5, aligning the enterprise with the sales organization itself so that they are not seen as outsiders. And then 6 is the ability to implement processes and technology to their business, right? So these 6 pillars, they identified as the anatomy that you need to become a winning sales organization. So, having said that, I'll look at today's session. So today's session, we're going to look at how the strategy that we require, because first of all, we need to define the context in which we want to build our sales organization. But before we do that, we need to understand the sales management system. Now, the sales management system, if well understood, will help business owners, organizations to know that there is a causal effect when it comes to all the components of that system. So, in simple terms, this is what it is. The sales management process starts with the company results. A company's results is affected by customer results. In other words, when the customers are happy, right, with the product and service, when they do repeat purchases, and when they become loyal, satisfaction levels are high, then they fuel our success as businesses. Okay. Now, the customer satisfaction, the customer success is dependent on sales force activities. So what it means that if our sales people are not competent, do not have the skills, the values, right, the capabilities, then they are actually going to negate all the objectives that we've set for ourselves. Then, apart from the activity, now we need to talk about the salespeople, because salespeople bring life to the sales activity. Otherwise, it doesn't matter. Now, what's the profile of salespeople you are employing? And that is one of the biggest issues, big issues. Are they a fit for what you are selling? It's a question that ought to be answered. And then the salespeople behavior and skills is influenced by what we call the sales effectiveness drivers. Now, the sales effectiveness drivers are all those components, all those things that shape and direct the behavior of salespeople. Without that, you may be working in an ad hoc manner. So, having introduced that, let me go to today's the session. So, what do we mean by sales effectiveness drivers? So, these are the root cause of progress through the sales activities, through a sales organization. So there are 5 components, and the first one we are going to look at. So it's the 5 components that are broken down in terms of the sessions that we're going to be having for the next 5 weeks, right? Today's session is sales strategies and the impact it has on sales. So, the question to some of our listeners now is what's your sales strategy? What's your go to market strategy? And how is your sales structured? And very often, what I'm going to look at is within our context most of the time. So I'll take the sales strategy as an issue, right? So you start a business or you're already in business, you need to begin to interrogate and ask yourself, am I targeting the right person? It's a good question to ask. Very often I ask potential clients, who are your customers? And the answer is everybody. Well, everybody is very broad. So it's always important to make your salespeople effective and efficient. You need to be clear about who is going to buy your product. Otherwise, it's a waste of time, of your salespeople's time, right? So that is one point. The second thing that you need to look at and evaluate is what you sell. Of course, that there isn't much a lot of people can do about it. If you have the product and you have identified who needs that product, then it becomes much more easier for you. However, the biggest issue when it comes to the sales strategy component is what I call the sales process. And research upon research has shown that businesses that have sales processes do far better than those who do not have. A recent Harvard Business Review article that I read indicated that sales organizations that do have a dynamic process which has been systemized, which has been written, right, that's more than about between 15 and 20% in sales revenue than their nearest competitors. Now, the irony is that 90% of businesses don't have a sales process, and that is quite interesting. Very often, you ask business people, and they say, "Well, we have a process." I ask the next question is, "So, walk me through." Well, it's not written. So, can you imagine the process of producing a show? It's a process. You need to come and do your show prep. You need to test your mics. You need to know the advertising that will go onto your show. All those processes. Otherwise, you will not make it. And this is one area that is a problem. Big problem. So, there's the need for that sales process. If you don't have one, it is important to step back and then look at the sales process. Then, for the first stage, you need to look at your go-to-market strategy. What channels are you going to be selling to? Because all these things can impact the quality of salespeople you recruit, your sales methodology, and how you structure your sales. So I'll give you an example. If you have a product that has very low margins, right? Very, very low margins, your distribution strategy must be very different. Okay, so I'll give you an example. I was working with a group of salespeople some time ago, and we started the training, and suddenly I asked one question: what is the margin on your products? And my understanding was that the margins are very, very, very small. Now, these salespeople had been given monthly targets and had been given a certain amount as transportation, right, to go and prospect for business. We sat down and then we broke it down. How much will it cost you? 200 Ghana cedis a month. How many customers do you need to become profitable as an organization? And we worked out the numbers. It didn't add up. With 200 Ghana cedis of transportation a week. The shortest trip is how many? How much by Uber? 30 cedis. We don't know.
Mm-hmm.
Then it occurred to them that, well, we can't go along this way and say salespeople should step out. Mm-hmm. So let's rather do an inside sales force where we use the phone to prospect, where we use the phone to qualify. After that, when we know that somebody is ready to buy, then we book those appointments and we go and see the people. So your distribution model needs to be very important. Is it inside sales? Is it going to be field sales? If it is field sales, are you selling directly to the customer, or you are going to use distributors? That is a question that ought to be answered. If so, are you also going to go the key account route where you have identified certain big important companies that you want to be selling to, or individuals you want to be selling to? That is also very, very important. Then we move to your sales force design, the size, and most importantly, the size of your sales force. And this is one challenge a lot of sales organizations are facing. They don't know how many salespeople they need. Say as many as possible. And the idea is, well, let them come. After month 1, we will churn maybe 5. After month 2, we will churn another 5. After month 3, survival of the fittest. Those who are fit will stay, because it's an ad hoc. We do not know. So it's important also for businesses to, as it were, to have a way of working, calculating how many salespeople they need. Otherwise, what you do is that management of the salespeople become a problem. You may attract salespeople who are not effective or who are not even fit for sales, and worst of all, you end up with low productivity. So these are the 3 areas when it comes to strategy for defining your sales strategy to start building an organization.
Wow, some very insightful thoughts there. I'm sure that it will set us thinking on this conversation on sales. If you've just tuned in, this is Masterclass here on your Superstation Joy 99.7. We're spending time here in the studio with Mauli Oklu, who's telling us about the importance and effectiveness of sales in organizations, essentially how to build a winning sales organization. We'll be getting interactive in a few minutes. When we do, please pick up that phone, give us a call, ask your questions, share your thoughts, and let's all make this conversation great for our nation, Ghana, and for entrepreneurs. Mauli, please go ahead.
Yeah, so basically, I've just set the agenda for the conversation. What I've done is that I have defined the foundation upon which a sales organization will start building a great sales agenda.
Yeah.
1, your strategy must be clear, which means you must be clear about your target market, your ideal customer profiles, and even to the extent that you must identify clearly the kind of people that your salespeople should be talking to. If you are selling in a B2B environment, who are the decision makers?
Essentially.
You understand? You need to identify the various decision makers, the influencers, the subject matter experts, etc. Even if it's a B2B, business to consumer, you must be clear as to who takes the decision, who influences. And I typically use an example. I hate shopping. So if I go shopping, when I go shopping with my wife and I see the salesperson all over me, I just smile, because he doesn't understand the power of influence that the woman holds, right? But for certain products who clearly know who influences the buying, who takes the decision, the roles that people play, it helps the salesperson do a better job, right?
It's the point you just made is so profound. Understanding and knowing who the decision makers are in every scenario, and I'm sure we'll be coming back to that a bit more shortly. But if you're listening to us, this is Masterclass. Masterclass is brought to us by Goyle. Goyle, they say good energy. Goyle, Yenara Yedia. If you have any motor vehicle of any kind, I've got some great news for you. So Goyle's new super synthetic 5W20 and 5W30 loops are the best engine oils for your vehicle. They are specially engineered engine oils which efficiently work on all your modern petrol and diesel engines. They clean, they protect, they reduce fuel consumption, they prolong oil change intervals, and they enhance your engine performance right from when you start up till when you switch off. So go to any Goyle filling station today and grab the new Goyle Super Synthetic 5W20 and 5W30 engine oils for superior vehicle performance. Goyle, they say good energy. Goyle, Yenara, Yedia. We're going straight to the phone lines now. Numbers to call 0302 216 541. That's 0302 216 541. By all means, pick up that phone and give us a call. You can also send us a comment on 0244340437. That's 0244340437. We're also streaming live on Facebook. Just go to our Facebook page and then you'll be able to watch the show live with us. So by all means, give us that call 0302 216 541 or 0244340437. We're waiting for your phone calls to come through. Let's hear your experience. How are you handling your sales? Obviously, you are in some kind of business. I think I've got Kofi from Tema. Let's talk to Kofi. Good afternoon, Kofi. You're welcome to Masterclass.
How are you?
I'm well, thank you, Kofi. Talk to me.
Yes. My question has to do with the services sector.
Right.
When it comes to sales within the services sector, it is very difficult as opposed to the sales of goods. So it comes in two ways. Number one, you see that there are people who are already established, who already have what you are already doing, or the kinds of customers that or clients you want to reach out to.
Right.
So how do you go about that?
Okay.
And talking about networking, sometimes it doesn't matter how you network. The people have entrenched positions. They have their people already. So is there anything like you go in behind to give them some offers? Is it legal? If you promise the person, give me this, and then you get 10%, and that's what most people do. So should you also follow suit? And finally, if the first two will not work in your favor, what do you do to penetrate the market in terms of you offering services?
Right.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much. We'll try and answer that question. Let's hold on to, if you can just take down those questions for me. We'll just take down those questions and then we'll try and answer them. I've got Emmanuel from Kaswa. Let's talk to Emmanuel. Good afternoon, Emmanuel. You're welcome to Masterclass.
Yeah, good afternoon.
Talk to me, Emmanuel.
Okay, so I just want to find out, as a business in telecommunications,
right,
in building up your sales team with this digital evolution, what should be the criteria of the salesperson you should be looking out for?
In telecommunications. Emmanuel, please keep listening. We'll try and answer that. Emmanuel wants to know, in building up his sales team in the telecommunication field, what should he look out for when he's recruiting salespersons? Perhaps let's start from Emmanuel and work our way back to Kofi from Tema. So Emmanuel wants to know very quickly, what should he look out for? He's in the telecommunications space. He's recruiting.
That's a very good question. I think the next session is when we'll deal with recruitment into detail. Yeah. But I'll answer the question. Well, I mean, recruitment, and that's why I started from the strategic point of view, right? That's what we call the definers. You know, you need to actually be clear about your strategy. And I said that, whom are you selling to, right? So if it is you are selling to high net worth individuals, or if you are selling to a company that buys through a procurement department, if you are selling to a company that has a buying committee, if you are selling to a company that has, you know, an incumbent there already, your sales the profile of your salespeople is influenced by the first the product you are selling, if it is a complex product, or it is just a transactional product, or is just in between transactional and complex, which is all right. You need to be clear about that. So, what informs your decision as to the profile of the person first is driven by your strategy. One. Secondly, it is not everybody who has the DNA to sell, and this is one of the things we will look at in recruitment.
Right.
And I do some recruitment for clients. At times, they'll tell you the best part of a sales candidate, they sell well at the interview. But when it comes to hitting the ground running, because you missed out something. So what I recommend is that first, once you profile it and you say, if the person is selling to executive people, then you need somebody who can engage people at executive
at a certain level,
who is analytical, who can communicate logically, who can build relationships. You understand? But most importantly, if you are entering the market, then you need somebody who is competitive by nature. You understand? So
right.
it depends on your JD, your job description that you have.
But I think you shared some thoughts there.
Yeah.
Let's go to Kofi from Tema. Kofi had about 3 questions. I think his first question was that sales in the service sector is difficult. How do you go about it?
Well, okay, so that's a very good point. I disagree with that assertion.
Okay.
Yeah, because whether it's a product or a tangible product or a service, what you're selling is a promise. You understand? If I bought a pair of shoes, it's not the shoe that I'm buying, but it is how good and confident I'll look. That's what I'm buying.
Yeah.
So the way I tell people to look at a service industry, service, is to look at it from a 3-dimensional point of view. So I want to give an example. So even if it is, let's say, a bank, okay, a bank, even though it's a service industry, it is a product. So that's why I define it. Whether it's a service or I define it as a product, because it carries a bundle of benefits designed to meet your needs. One of the benefits is psychological, how it will make you feel saving with that bank. The other one is that it has to be very functional, right? Yes, it must protect your money, etc. And then it must give you access to the bank, whether it's by digital platforms, by the ATM, or you walk into the branch.
Yeah.
These are the attributes. So it's a product.
So it's understanding the product and being able to sell it.
Yes, understanding the product, one, and understanding the values it delivers to people. People do not buy products. They buy the benefits they will derive from the product.
And sometimes they don't even know this.
Exactly. And that comes to his other question regarding people are already entrenched.
Yes, networking, whether you should induce or not.
Yes, I mean, the point is that, yes, you need to, one, build relationship. Okay, so the networking is important. And this is one of the things that comes. Okay, some people do not move or they don't change because of what we call the incumbency bias, right? Why should I change? And that is a conversation that a lot of sales organizations haven't been able to craft to say change. You understand? A typical example. Why is it that some people just like to sit at a particular place in church or their favorite spot? Once you get there, you ask them to move, they will never move. How much does it cost? But then you need to give them a reason, and at times we show up thinking that our product is the best and our product can solve all problems. But we must also understand that people are afraid of change, and so the status quo remains. So there's a science behind it, and you need to be very deliberate about it. It's not about 10%. And of course, it's not every customer that's it's a fit for you.
Right.
Sometimes you just have to move away. Yeah.
I've got Emmanuel from North Carnation on social media. Emmanuel says, "Good afternoon. Yeah, great topic." So, the gentleman in the studio, the gentleman you were talking about in the video at the beginning of your show is Vusi Sembe Kwayo. I hope I pronounced it.
Yeah.
A brilliant South African venture capitalist. I am a sales practitioner, so the guy in the video is my idol. I think you need to put together a podcast and go back to listen to the program. I'd like to be on your program someday. Okay, so this is Emmanuel from North Carnation. Numbers to call again, 0302216541. You can also send us your comment on 0244340437. We're also streaming live on Facebook, so by all means, you can watch us live. I've got one here. Okay, you didn't add your name. It says, I'm Joel, head of savings with the Top Microfinance. In our industry, it's quite difficult coming by sales reps with integrity, and so it's always been quite expensive monitoring sales reps in order not to embezzle funds. What's the best and less expensive way of managing and supervising sales reps in my industry? This is Joel. Joel wants to know, he needs some help.
Well, the question, I cannot be presumptuous, The question I would ask is that, what's your recruitment process? Because obviously integrity is very, very important to work with such an industry.
Yeah.
So my question is that even if you were conducting an interview, do your questions include questions that test for integrity? That's one question. That's one area I'll ask. Secondly, there are tools available, and I'm sure a lot of the HR companies do have them. The recruitment companies do have them. I use them as well. It's a science that helps minimize this risk. So if you're in an industry like microfinance, banking, where people handle money, it's important to invest in these tools, because these tools can help you identify the personality of people. I'm not saying it's 100% accurate, but 90% accuracy, you'll get it. And that is what. The other thing is that, what profile of people are you attracting by your package as well? So there's a mix. Now, with respect to monitoring people, yes, we'll look at sales enablement as one of the topics, but there are tools that are available that can tell you where your salesperson is at a particular point in time. They log in. It's a mobile CRM. They log in wherever they are, right? And then you can then validate with geofencing, etc.
So there's technology to support the process.
There's technology on handheld that can support
the sales process.
Managers. So, for instance, you're a sales manager, and the guy says, I've visited 10 prospects, and yet he's not making a sales. Do you know the conversation they are having? And that's a typical example. I made an inquiry to an organization recently, completed their form on your website. I received that I want brochures, right? I received brochures and an invoice. I didn't ask for an invoice. You understand? And it's assumed that I want to buy. You understand? But the brochure, I do not understand the technical terms in the brochure. But yes, that has been ticked as has been done. But what conversation did the person have with me?
Almost none.
So managers are not having visibility into the kind of conversations that their salespeople are having on the phone. They are not having visibility into the conversation they are having in their emails, and most of these things must communicate value proposition. You understand? And they are not having visibility in terms of where their salespeople are at a particular point in time.
And the thing is that truly you cannot really expect what you do not inspect.
Exactly.
And if people know that they can cut corners, they will always cut corners.
Exactly. I mean, full disclaimer, I used to be head of sales and marketing at Multimedia here. I mean, there were salespeople. Those times technology wasn't available. Who would go around and bring a list of
things they've done.
And on a couple of occasions, I called up the place, and it was somebody's home line.
You're kidding me.
Yes, I mean, if you don't inspect it.
Talk to me about commission. Does it work as a motivation?
It is one.
I know it's a whole conversation, but maybe in a few seconds.
No. Okay, so commission works, and once again, it comes back to your what you are selling, whom you are selling to, right, and your business model, right. So, for instance, in some businesses like insurance, if the people are paying life insurance, of course, they are paying monthly premiums.
That's
I mean, we cannot pay you if the person does not pay the premium, and first, even they pay it must incept. You understand? So they cannot pay you a salary based on that. So there are particular industries and particular products. But the most important thing you must understand is that it is how the commission is structured, the different types of commission. Look, if you want to move fast in the market, then you must give very attractive commission to people, but then you must recruit people who have that profile, the risk takers. And how do you know a risk taker? You cannot just by the person attending the interview and blabbing, right? You must use the recruitment tools, the assessment tools that can pinpoint who is a risk taker. Such people are happy with commission. And the irony of it is that for some who are reluctant of taking commission, once they get into the job and you pay them salaries, after a few months, when they start making good money for the business, then they begin to say that,
now pay me commission.
Pay me commission. You know, so yes, we will have an extensive commission. It's on the fourth session. Yes.
Let me just drop this last question in very briefly, and then while you answer that, if you can just sort of round up and give us our takeout from today. The customer today has evolved because he's spoiled for choice. And there's many options available, and I dare say that we, all of us, have become selfish at some point. And so, you know, a lot of these idiosyncrasies come to bear. Do you think that reverse engineering customer need to product development is more effective as a sales option? So when I say reverse engineering, what I mean is that starting from what does the customer need? Where is the gap? How do they want it? How do they want to use it? And working your way from there with that information and then developing a product, as opposed to developing a product and throwing it at the customer.
Well, I think that job would have been done by marketing already.
Okay.
So it's not the role of the salesperson.
Brilliant distinction there.
So what the broken link is how salespeople are able to identify their needs. Salespeople don't ask questions. They talk too much. And regrettably, some interview panels are excited when the guy can talk.
When they can talk, this conversation is getting more and more exciting. In 30 seconds, give me our takeout for today. We will definitely continue from here next week, and then we'll sort of break it down a bit more.
All right. So
what should we remember from today's conversation?
From today's session, what we need to remember is that, look, just like any building, right, to build, you need a foundation. The foundation for building a successful sales organization is, one, develop your sales strategy, which has to who to sell to, your sales process, and where you want to sell to, your go-to-market strategy, as in your distribution models, right? Are you selling directly, indirectly, inside, using the telephone, using distributors, etc.? You need to clarify that, and you need to be clear about the profile of the people you want to sell your products and your structure of your sales team.
Thank you so
Without
much.
this foundation, you are building on
a bad foundation. All right. Next week we'll be looking at sales recruitment, training, and coaching, and obviously take a few more questions from today's conversation. Thank you so much. This has been Masterclass here on the Superstation. We'll be spending time with Mr. Mauli Oklu, sharing some thoughts with us, helping us to understand the foundation of sales and how to build a winning sales organization. Up next, we continue with The Ignition with Sammy Forson. Next week, we're back on your radio, same time with Masterclass. See you next week, and thank you for listening.